Extreme Monsters, Book 1, The Blue Moon Effect, Chapter 4, T-Rex for short. The words painted on the door in big gold leaf letters read, Central Headquarters, Extreme Team Sports League, ETSL, T. Rexford Snatley, President and Chief Extreme Officer. Doc walked inside with Val, Jinx, and Wolf close behind. Under his arm he carried a laptop computer that held a slideshow featuring blue moon diagrams and calculations. A chestnut-haired woman was sitting behind the reception desk doing a crossword puzzle. She was dressed in a stylish skating outfit that included day-glow elbow and knee pads and a jazzy matching crash helmet.
"Good morning, Daisy,"
said Doc.
"That's got to be your nicest outfit yet."
"Hi, Doc, thanks," replied Daisy, flashing him a friendly smile.
"You have an appointment with Mr. Snatley?" "Yes, and I've brought the Extreme Monsters. It's their first time here."
"You brought the Extreme Monsters?" squealed the receptionist happily. "Mr. Snatley didn't say anything about that." She craned her neck to get a glimpse of the super athletes bunched up behind Doc.
"Well, I brought 3 of them,"
said the scientist. Daisy dropped her puzzle and pencil and grabbed a marking pen. "Now don't any of you move," she said. She rolled her chair back and rose to her feet with a loud clatter. Val noticed she was wearing skates. "I'm a huge fan," she said, rolling around to the front of the desk. "I saw you at the Global Games. You came from behind. You guys were awesome." She tilted her head toward the trio, handed Val the pen, and said, "Could you sign my crash helmet?" Sure," said Val, taking the marker. After the 3 monsters had finished signing Daisy's helmet, Val looked again and noticed that the helmet had also been signed by Chip Brentwood and Scott Squire, 2 of the human stars of Team Pendant. The young receptionist straightened up, beaming. "Follow me," she said. "Mr. Snatley is expecting you." Daisy escorted the 4 visitors down a long corridor. Pausing at the corner office, she poked her head inside. "It's Doc, Mr. Snatley, and," she smiled happily, 3 extreme monsters." "Excellent. Have them come in, Daisy," called a gravelly voice from within. "We're all waiting for them."
"We?"
Doc whispered to Val.
"I wonder who we is. It was supposed to be him and us."
When the Extreme Monsters entered the league president's spacious office, they got a nasty surprise. "It's him," hissed Jinx into Val's ear. Damon Christopher was standing beside President Snatley's desk. He was sporting a black suit, a maroon silk tie, and fancy shoes. He wore a grin so wide and fake it looked like it had been pasted onto his face. Damon was holding a laser pointer aimed at a nearby screen, on which a large chart was displayed. At the back of the room, operating the computer projector that beamed the image on the screen, were the billionaire's 2 henchmen, Cletus and Clem Sline. Val also noticed that Chip and Scott were seated at the back of the room looking bored. Scott nodded to Val, who nodded back. Cletus and Clem were 2 brothers with talents for extreme sports and extreme mischief. Damon had discovered them surfing on jet boards in a polluted swamp. He'd signed them on the spot to race for Team Pendant. Tall, green, and warty, the geeky pair were monsters endowed with great strength. They also had a unique, creepy ability to make their bodies ooze and spray different kinds of slime. Everybody knew them by their nickname, the Slime Brothers. Val figured out in a split second that they were the source of the thermal slime that had ruined Jinx's luge. Jinx made a sudden move as if to snap her fingers and fetch her wand.
Don't even think about it,
Val muttered under his breath. Jinx gave Val a dark look, but heeded his warning. A short man shaped like a tea kettle with two spouts for arms waddled toward them with a big smile.
Doc, the man said, how nice to see you again.
He took Doc's hand and pumped it hard. Then he turned toward the extreme monsters and stretched out his arms.
Guys, what can I say? I've heard so much about you, but I don't believe we've ever met. T. Rexford Snatley. You can call me T-Rex for short.
Funny, you don't look like a T-Rex, snorted Wolf. Get it? T-Rex, tall dinosaur, short guy? Val gave his clueless buddy a sharp poke in the ribs.
Don't mind Wolf,
he said, turning beet juice red.
He means well, but he says things without thinking. We're all very pleased to meet you.
T-Rex laughed heartily.
No offense taken, I am short.
He slapped Wolf on the back.
I like a werewolf with a sense of humor.
He waddled back toward his desk and motioned for his 4 visitors to join him. I want you to meet my other guests. Doc and the monsters had little choice but to follow. T-Rex stood smiling between Damon Christopher and the extreme monsters. He seemed unaware of how intensely bitter their rivalry had become.
You know Damon Christopher, I'm sure,
he said.
These are his associates, Clem and Cletus Slime.
The extreme monsters nodded patiently. Damon nodded back. No one offered to shake hands. After an awkward silence, T-Rex invited Doc and the monsters to take seats in a semicircle in front of the projector screen. Damon and the brothers remained standing.
I understand you're here to discuss the Halloween games,
T-Rex said to Doc.
Yes,
The games are going to be incredible this year, our best ever.
That's exactly what I wanted to.
Damon here has been handling all the business and technical difficulties, T-Rex breezed on.
Doing a super job. He's arranged to have the games televised on the Satellite Extreme Sports channel. We're talking global feed here. That means mega exposure for our league. But T-Rex, that's just what we need to discuss.
Doc managed to slip in.
Of course we do, said T-Rex. Hold that thought, though. I want you to hear what Damon has planned. You're going to love it. Tell them, Damon.
Doc slumped back in his chair and sighed quietly. Damon Christopher gave a toss of his heavily gelled hair. Then he turned on his artificially sweetened smile. It's just like T-Rex says, he began. We're talking mega TV coverage. That's 10 satellite feeds, 40 countries, 200 million viewers, monsters and humans alike. We're booking top-of-the-line superstars for the midnight gig. Tom and Paris and Jennifer and Jason are coming. Angelina, Brad, and Jessica are leaning. And Justin, Ashley, and Brittany are solid maybes. Fabulous, Damon, remarked the president. You can say that again, T-Rex, said Damon, with a sly wink at the monsters. An opportunity like this doesn't come along often, maybe once in a blue moon. At the mention of these words, Val nearly fell off his seat. He glanced at Doc and his teammates. They'd all been taken by surprise. There was no way Damon could have let that slip by accident. Damon's spy, Vincent, must have told him something about Doc's discovery. But how much did Damon know? Val decided it was time to find out. "What's in this for you, Mr. Christopher?" he blurted out. Damon looked hurt by the question. "For me?" he said. "Almost nothing. I'll be happy just knowing that the league is finally getting the exposure it deserves." "Really?" said Val, with an edge to his voice. "I read in Extreme Sports News that your company is supplying all the satellite dishes and refreshments. I also heard that only one company, yours, is allowed to sell sports gear at the games." Damon smiled. "And why not? My products are the best." "I also heard that Pinnon is going to be the only television advertiser." "What's your point?" Damon snapped, suddenly annoyed. "I'm not sure what you're saying either," observed T-Rex. "I agreed to let Pendant do everything. Damon has assured me it would make things go smoother." Val turned toward the league president. "My point is simple, sir," he said. "Mr. Christopher stands to make a lot of money if the game succeeds, and lose a lot if they're postponed." "Postponed?" T-Rex said with a nervous laugh. "No way. The weather forecast is perfect for Halloween." "But the moon forecast isn't," Doc broke in. He flipped open his briefcase and slapped a printout of the slideshow on the desk. "What are these?" asked T-Rex. "Our big blue headache," said Doc. For the next hour, Doc patiently went over his findings with the league president. During that time, Damon didn't say a thing, a fact that Val found both strange and suspicious. When Doc finally finished his presentation, T-Rex Snatley's eyes could hardly focus. He had the look of a drowning man hoping someone would throw him a lifeline. He turned to Damon and moaned, "What do you make of this?" Damon straightened his tie. He threw back his shoulders. Then he flicked on his pointer and his oily smile. "Last chart, boys," he said. The slime twins clicked through Damon's slides until the chart labeled "The Myth of the Devil's Blue Moon" appeared. The extreme monsters gasped. "A little bird told me about Doc's crazy theory," Damon began, smirking. "We know about full moons and blue moons and their effect on monsters, but this crackpot theory about a devil's blue moon is totally unbelievable. I understand Doc's worries, I truly do, but I would have thought that, as a man of science, he would not have been duped by this old wives' tale. I think when I'm finished, you'll see that Doc is more than a little confused, shall we say." "Liar!" shouted Wolf. "Quiet!" ordered Snatley. "I'm in charge here. Continue, Damon." With words T-Rex found instantly reassuring, Damon attacked Doc's points one by one. There was no such thing as a blue moon, he said. Had anyone ever seen a news report about a blue moon? No. Was any scientist other than Doc jumping up and down about it? No. Was the internet buzzing with blue moon talk? No. If the Halloween games were postponed for such an insane reason, he said, the ETSL would be the laughingstock of the sports world. When Damon concluded, T-Rex jumped up and hugged him. "Thank you, Damon, for setting things straight. The games will go on," he said. "I won't delay them 1 second for such loony nonsense." The extreme monsters were numb. Even Doc seemed stunned. Damon had outsmarted them. Val could see that he was filled with joy at this victory. On his face was a sly, mocking grin.